Today I want to share with you one of the most horrifying food hygiene outbreaks I've come across. I found this article here in the journal Epidemiology and Infection, and the story is truly remarkable. Well, we have to go back to the year 1990 in South Carolina, where around 2,400 attendees of a hardware convention, they sat down for Sunday lunch, and roughly 800 of them got sick. Some of them were unfortunately even hospitalized, and the investigators, they figured out pretty quickly what caused it. It was the turkey. And this isn't really a story about some rare or exotic pathogen today, because salmonella really isn't very rare or exotic at all. This is going to be a story about time, temperature, and a whole series of bad decisions in the kitchen. And all of these factors together, they produced a really large outbreak. Now let me give you a bit of background on the pathogen first. Salmonella lives in the intestinal tract of turkeys. Now that is completely normal. And during the processing, especially during evisceration, this is when you take out all of the organs, and when you clean the bird, when you clean the turkey, well, those bacteria, they end up on the meat itself. And that's actually also normal. But when you cook the turkey properly, then that's the end of it, right? That's the end of the problem, because the bacteria are killed and that's it, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. The real question here is now, what actually went wrong now in this particular kitchen that still so many people got ill? Well, this article outlines and describes everything in detail, and we have to look at the setup, because the restaurant's kitchen was designed for around 250 meals per day, and for this specific convention weekend, the staff had to prepare additional 7,000 meals in 30 hours. That's roughly 10 to 15 times the safe capacity. And the kitchen was over capacity in everything, in equipment, in staff, in refrigeration. So 92 frozen turkey breasts, they were delivered on a Friday for the Sunday lunch. And they were split into two batches, prepared on two different kitchens on 2 different days, because one kitchen alone couldn't handle all of it. So already this is where the trouble starts, because in my view this isn't even one mistake. It's a kitchen operating far outside of its capacity, and where every shortcut was forced by a previous shortcut, and essentially it was a domino effect that we had here. Now let's look at the 2 batches. 20 of the 92 turkey breasts were cooked at restaurant A itself. We don't know exactly when, this was not documented, but what we do know is that at 7 a.m. in the morning on Saturday, this was the day before they would be served, an employee arrives at work and finds those cooked turkey breasts sitting on a large preparation table at room temperature. And the same employee leaves at 5 p.m. and the turkeys are still on the table. So that's at least 10 hours unrefrigerated in a working kitchen in August. It could have been longer, of course, because we don't know exactly when they were put there. But 10 hours is the minimum that could be verified. Now, either they didn't have the refrigeration capacity, or they didn't bother. Well, we actually don't know. No, but the other 72 turkey breasts, they went to a second kitchen, let's call it restaurant B, and this one was 1 hour north of restaurant A, and the kitchen was run by the same manager. They were cooked there on Saturday, and on Sunday morning they were loaded onto an unrefrigerated truck for the trip back to the convention center. And on the way, the truck breaks down, right? So when things go wrong, they really go wrong very badly. The truck was abandoned on the roadside, and about an hour later, a second unrefrigerated truck arrives. It picks up the turkeys and it finishes the trip. And the outside temperature at that time was set 27 degrees Celsius. That's already a warm day. So this batch spent roughly 2 hours in unrefrigerated trucks on a warm day, and after already having been cooked the day before. Now this is where math actually starts to matter, because salmonella, under ideal conditions, it can divide once every 30 minutes. That means doubling. And after 1 hour, that's 4 times as many bacteria. After 2 hours, it's 16 times as many bacteria. After 5 hours, over 1,000 times. And after 10 hours, we're looking at roughly a million-fold increase in bacteria. I mean, that's the optimistic case on cooked turkey at room temperature. It might grow slower, maybe 40 to 60 minutes between divisions. Well, but the principle holds. We're not talking about a few extra bacteria here. We're talking about populations really exploding in numbers. And now these bacteria start to dominate the meat. And then comes the reheating. And this is where things really start to go a little bit strange, because before serving, the kitchen tried to reheat the turkey by taking the water that had originally been used to boil the turkey and heating that water back up and pouring it over the cooked meat. And that was the reheating step. And even after that, when the turkey arrived at the buffet to be served, it started to smell bad. So, well, how bad? Well, bad enough that the staff setting up the buffet actually noticed it themselves. They sent half of it back to the kitchen and they asked for fresh turkey. Well, of course, the kitchen had none. And this is basically what they have done instead. And they rinsed the spoiled turkey under cold tap water for 2 minutes to wash off the bad smell, and then under hot tap water for a minute or so to basically heat it up again. And then they sent it back to be served. And I have to say, I had to read the paragraph a few times and I still quite cannot get over it, because the staff knew, they smelled it, they specifically asked for replacement turkey, and when there was none, they rinsed the spoiled meat and sent it back out. And I mean, that's not ignorance, really. I mean, that's a decision. And honestly, what are you gonna do if you are now a kitchen staff at that moment? Which is exactly why this can't sit only on the staff. It's also a managerial problem as well. So why didn't any of this processing save anyone? Well, pouring hot water over the meat warms the surface, but it doesn't get inside hot enough to kill the bacteria. Real reheating means that the whole piece of meat has to reach a sufficiently high temperature for also a sufficiently long time to kill the bacterial load. A water rinse cannot do that, and honestly, the fact that there were so many bacteria there in the first place probably tells us that the original cooking wasn't thorough enough either. So the washing only removed the smelly compounds that the bacteria made, and the smell of spoiled meat comes from the water-soluble organic acids that bacteria produce as they break down the meat. You can of course rinse those off and the smell kind of goes away with them, but the bacteria themselves, of course, they stayed, and by the time the rinsed turkey reached the buffet again, well, it smelled fine. And this is the part that most people miss. Smell is produced by some bacterial byproducts, and the pathogens that actually make you sick may or may not produce the smell. So smell is not really a safety test. Your nose evolved to detect rotting protein, not pathogen load, and those are two different things. Of course, if food smells bad, you have to throw it out, but likewise, just because food smells okay does not mean it's safe. And this is also why most diners, they did not notice. Only about 8% of the people who ate the turkey actually said it tasted or smelled off. The rinse therefore kind of worked for the smell. Maybe it even made the whole issue more worse, because now even less people actually recognized that something was wrong with the meat. And here's the part that bothers me personally a little bit the most, because the restaurant manager had passed food safety exams 6 months before the outbreak. The kitchen had been cited no less than 23 times in just the first half of that year for hygiene violations. Yes, and including, and I quote now here, a rat feeding near where food was being prepared. Now, the staff knew the rules, so this wasn't really an education problem. And to me, this looks much more like a conscious decision to probably cut corners. The kitchen took on 10 to 15 times the safe capacity. So is this cost cutting? Well, the article actually points into that direction. It also notes that competitive bidding can reward operators with smaller kitchens, less equipment, less overhead, meaning the system financially favors exactly this kind of overreach. And I think it's kind of worth taking seriously. The decision to serve the rinsed turkey in that specific moment may not have been about money, of course, but the conditions that produced the decision absolutely were. So the deeper failure here isn't really biological. It's the kitchen that knew the rules, they chose repeatedly not to follow them, and the regulatory system, well, could not stop them. The authors are continuing venting their frustration even at the closing of the paper. They described the outbreak as a dramatic example of a health department's inability to change practices in a restaurant that repeatedly failed inspection, and they end the paper essentially arguing that the existing system doesn't work And they're calling for permit revocation, they're calling for fines and even criminal charges as options that should be on the table. Now luckily no one died from this outbreak, but honestly that was luck, because with a generally healthy adult population, salmonella at this dose causes a few rough days and some hospitalizations. But with more vulnerable groups, elderly people, young children, anyone who's immune compromised, well, this exact outbreak could be very realistically could have killed people. Well, I do hope that you found this video interesting and that you've learned something from it. As always, I wish you happy microbe hunting and hope to see you again in the next video. Bye bye.